Ready?
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, action.
Action.
I will get the hang of this clipboard at some point.
Of number 2.
Yes, welcome to number 2 of PBs and Positivity.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with a disclaimer that I'm a bit bunged up.
Didn't know where you were going with that.
So, yeah, the sniffing, apologies in advance for that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Don't share that.
Hmm?
Don't share that.
Don't show what?
The sniffles.
Oh, I thought you meant don't post that.
Don't share that.
Yeah, and if I have a coughing fit, we'll just roll with it.
Mm-hmm.
Fab. So we thought today, we didn't want to make this podcast about bodybuilding as such, did we? But given that the end of the season is here,
It's Heather.
yeah, we wanted to touch a little bit on not necessarily just post-show, but post-diet and phase and mindset around that, because we both come at it from a slightly different angle in terms of our mindset around it. So I think it might be beneficial today to talk about your experience of it.
Yeah, and everyone's going to deal with it so differently.
Absolutely.
Post-show is not going to be the same, even from one, like, I shouldn't say post-show, post-diet, whatever kind of like phase it is that you're coming out of. If you've done it once before, the second time will be different, the third time will be different, the fourth time will be different.
Absolutely.
Could be better, could be worse, it just totally depends on like how your mindset is at the time.
Yeah.
And what other things that you're going through. But yeah, there's more than one way to obviously deal with post-show. I need to stop saying post-show.
Post-diet.
Post-diet, it's not something that is easy, but people should be prepared a little bit more and maybe just know how to deal with it better and give some sorts of techniques rather than just saying just feel better. It's not really that easy, and I think a lot of the times you can listen to people advising do this post-show, do this post-diet, but then it's not always as easy as just flicking a switch and changing your mindset. So what we want to do with this podcast especially is give people real techniques and things to actually do and think about and try, rather than just us saying, yeah, we'll just think better about it.
Okay, so in terms of that then, what do you think for anyone who, so if we do say post-show, we do mean any sort of post-diet, post-holiday, something that you've been working towards where your goal has been to lose weight and then you're coming out of the other side of that. Just we're so used to saying post-show, it's conditioned in there.
Great. Ignore that post-show phrase.
Yeah. So I guess, what do you think is important when you are trying to shift that mindset post any sort of diet phase?
I think the first thing what I would always struggle with is trying to understand like how I was trying to move back to the person that I was before. So this is going to be different for everybody, because the person that I was before competing or dieting or doing any sort of like show or getting leaner, the person I was before was always a very, very, very small person to begin with.
Yeah.
So a lot of the like things that I worked on to be able to get on stage and do so well was the building the muscle. And to go through the phase of building, that involved putting on weight, fat gain, of course, that comes along with the muscle gain. And that was something that I wasn't really used to. Now, some people would have completely different experiences because they perhaps would already be used to being in a bigger body, and that would then feel like it was different for them once they were lean. But because I've always been such a small person, to just put into perspective with, obviously this is my weight, this isn't anything to do with anybody, but for me being 5 foot, I think the heaviest I'd really got to before I went into a building phase, I think was about 8 stone 2. That was like the maximum weight I'd ever been, up to being, 19, 20 years old. That was the biggest I'd been. So the whole of my identity has always been a small person. I've always had people tell me my whole life, you're so small, you're so petite, you're so skinny. I didn't used to like that, because I used to just feel like I wanted to build my frame, make it bigger, make it chunkier, because I felt like it was a bad thing when people used to not so much put me down, but obviously if people are talking who are bigger and they are saying, oh, you're really skinny, it kind of feels like a bad thing. It kind of did to me anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm not going off tangent. What I'm trying to say is post-show for me is difficult because it's going away from what I feel is my identity, what I feel comfortable with. So my last stage weight was 7 stone 10. That was my last stage weight.
Do you know that in kilograms?
In kilograms it was 49 kilos. Yeah. Now, I know weight doesn't mean everything, but most of my whole life, the biggest I've ever been is like 8 stone wet through anyway. So to me being that like small, all my clothes that I normally would have worn years ago that I still have, they will fit me. It kind of feels like I'm just in my own body. So it's really, really difficult.
And you enjoy being lean as well, don't
I
you?
love just thrive off it. I think it's maybe because my body is just used to being lean.
Yeah.
Not saying that's a good thing, not saying it's good for health reasons, because I promise you now, I have learned it is
We
not
are
healthy.
going, yeah, and we will come on to that because you're
It
quite
is
comfortable to talk
It
about
is
that.
not
aren't you?
healthy whatsoever.
No.
Not that I realised at the time. I felt great. I've always eaten plenty, so I've always had, I wouldn't say I've always had a high metabolism, but I've always had an active life, so I've had horses, I've always been out and about, and I've never really had a sedentary lifestyle, so for that reason, you know, I have been able to just eat plenty of food. Anyhow, being able to put weight on post-show, for me it feels like I'm being stripped of my identity, and it's something that I've worked on in my off-season or building phases, to come away from what I feel comfortable with, because the most thing that is the most important to me is building muscle, and that was the one thing that really pushed me and just enabled me to get comfortable with putting weight on and being bigger and being in a bigger body, because I knew and I could see like the gains that I was making from that. So anyhow, it is more of a struggle for me post-show, because it's like I'm being pulled with who I feel like I should be. Everybody my whole life, you know, they're telling you you're petite, you're tiny, you're small. So for me post-show or in a building phase, it's strange because all of my old friends, all of my friends really that have known me for years, all of my family, you know, they probably are looking at me thinking, oh God, she's put weight on, because they've never seen me as much throughout my life being in that kind of bigger body.
Yeah.
So it's difficult because I do have people like that I've known for so many years who aren't being like offensive to me, but they will, you know, make comments of, you know, you are bigger, you are chunkier, etc., whatever it might be, and I'm fine with it, because to be honest, building the muscle to me is just the most important thing.
Yeah.
But it is hard, because I think when you have an identity that you fully believe that that's who you are, it's like a conflict. So for anyone who struggles with post-show, who like is in a similar position, I think the best tip I could say is that identity is not fixed, it is not in concrete, it doesn't mean that that's who you are. You are not always that person that you might have thought that you were, and it's okay to change that identity. And the people that love you and care about you and that are your friends and your family, they will fully support you through that if you're explaining like what it means to you, how happy it makes you, etc. And the health benefits of putting weight on. I can't stress that enough, you know, no matter how good I felt in prep, which I do thrive off prep, I love it, I do feel good, you know, that did not necessarily mean that I was healthy. So post-show, you've got to bear in mind that getting softer, that comes with literally health, the strength, the energy, the feel-good feelings of being a woman and being healthy. And that's not talked about enough, and I think sometimes because male, obviously, bodybuilding is like predominantly bodybuilding, female bodybuilding is so different, because no offence to male bodybuilding, they still obviously have a lot of hormonal things going on, but women are a little bit more delicate with, you know, how it could affect their hormones, shall we say, and making sure that they prioritise that hormonal recovery side for longevity in the sport, and, you know, being able to continue to diet and train, etc.
Yeah. So I want to unpick a few things that you've said a little bit more, but I think as a starting point, and what's probably important to say to people is, whoever you're working with in terms of your coach, post any sort of diet and phase, it's making sure that they are aware of how you're feeling around that as well, isn't it? Because me and you are very different post-show. I don't mind getting weight on, getting food in. I don't mind that going on quite quickly. Again, the opposite of Kelsey. When I was younger, I have always had a slightly curvier frame, and so that's my comfort zone. I'm quite comfortable being curvy. I feel a lot more womanly. I feel more attractive. You know, all those things about myself that I like. So Dan knows working with me, he can do that quite quickly, and with you, he maybe takes that a little bit slower. So just about making sure that your coach is aware where your comfort zone lies in terms of trying to support you, because mentally you want to make that shift as well, and it's not always comfortable for people. And this is a strange thing to say, considering, you know, a bodybuilder, there's a focus on kind of how you look, but how you look is actually the least interesting thing about you. It's a bit that everybody gets to see. There is so much more that is going on with you than that, and we've done a lot of stuff together, haven't we, in terms of that, to have a focus on other things. So when you're coming out of that, having that focus on whether it's going to be developing your business, or, you know, doing things with your family and your friends that you enjoy that you maybe haven't been able to do previously. And I think one of the main things, which I know you don't mind talking about, but health, focusing on that health. So I know you've just said your main thing is you want to build that muscle, but even then you've had to shift your thought process on that and your mindset on that, haven't you, because of issues with your health post-show. And if anybody has ever trained with Kelsey or seen Kelsey in the gym, she loves training, and trying to get Kelsey to not train to failure is probably one of the hardest challenges that I've had.
It's the hardest. That's what I literally train for. It is mad, because the big endorphin rush that I would get is if I'm training in a set and it gets obviously like close to failure, it's as if my head just kind of switches and it goes in a different zone. Obviously it's not like meditation, but it's as if like everything around me, I can't hear it, I can't see it, all I can feel is literally me, the weight in my own body. It's like I'm so deeply connected with myself, and it's those last few reps that just feel like out of this world. I can't explain it. That's what I train for, just that actual buzz. It's like I can't feel the pain until I actually stop my set, and then it just hits me, because I'm like so focused in it, I can't think about. But putting the weight on, to my surprise, because I've always been in a smaller body, I've always been so tiny and petite. Originally the first kind of off season that I did, where building phase I should say, I got up to 60 kilo. Bear in mind, like, you know, the smallest I've ever, the biggest I'd ever really been before that was like 50 kilo. Like that was like my highest ever weight. So 10 kilo more than I was used to being in my whole life. I thought I'd be really uncomfortable. As I actually got up to that weight, I actually went on a holiday right at the end of that off season. It was, no, I went to Turkey with Ace and his family in April 23.
Okay. I was going to say, when we went away, you were saying...
I was still quite small.
Yeah, but you were saying at that point you were feeling
better,
more comfortable to put on weight and to wear a bikini and not, and
that was like focus on that. Season.
Yeah.
But it felt like I was actually a woman. I wasn't like a skinny little boy with no boobs, no bum, but I had like, obviously curves being 60 kilo and 5 foot, but I actually really felt happy, and I never thought I would feel that like that at that weight. So I did surprise myself. So that's why, like, post show, when I've done it again and again, it's been easier, because I know that I have been up that weight now, and I have been able to get there and feel really good about myself. And I'm 60 kilos now, and I've got a lot more to bypass that still now this next building phase next year. So
we set some goals for that, didn't we, yesterday at the Empowered event?
Yes, we have more goals for more gains, more growth, more weight. I'm not scared of putting weight on, because actually, like, when you think that you won't be happy at a certain weight, the scale doesn't mean anything.
Scale weight,
and actually when you get there, well, from my experience anyway, like actually felt really good. So it's sometimes scary to think, oh my god, I put 10 kilos on, but actually then you get there and you're like, oh, I don't feel bad at all.
Yeah, and I think just to dig into that a little bit deeper, in terms of that scale weight, and if you are stepping on the scales and thinking, oh my god, I'm this weight, I'm that weight, I think you need to then unpick what is your limiting belief around that. So what is it that is scaring you about that?
Yeah.
If you are putting on weight, is it that you think people are going to judge you, and why is that?
That was mine.
And working backwards as to, okay, so where has this come from, and what do I know to be true about myself? Because actually your scale weight can change and change and change, but actually that's not really changed anything about you as a person. And actually the growth you want is also around your mindset and feeling confident where you are.
How you look at it, it's
Yeah.
how you
Perspective shift.
It's perspective shift, so it's what kind of like position that you're looking at it from. So you need to kind of tune into the fact that you are building for a reason, you're putting weight on for a goal, it's for health reasons, it's for muscle building reasons. You can't build a toned physique from literally just dieting. You've got to build the muscle first and then you can diet after that. So it's having the goal in mind and then changing your tune to what you want it to be, which is remembering what your goals are. So if you're, for example, if you're trying to tune into Key 103 and that's on, I don't know what number that's on, but like 98 on the radio, I think they changed it.
Is it not 103?
Maybe it is.
If not, that's just a silly name.
It could be, but it's as if you're tuned into Radio 1, you're hearing a completely different thing, but it doesn't mean that Key 103 doesn't exist and it's not playing the tunes, but it's going along a different line that you're just not tuned into. So there's other lines, there's other avenues of your perspectives, and it's difficult, but once you attune and change your track, change your tune, like there's so many other radio stations out there, but you're only going to listen to the one that you're tuned into, and that's to do with your mindset. So it's hard, but then the way that I did it, the way that I managed to put weight on and actually feel really good about it, is remembering why I was doing it, like the actual health reasons, hormones, like getting my cycle, building muscle, building my strength, building my energy. It's just so like pro putting weight on. There was nothing keeping me apart from my body image to be a smaller person.
Yeah.
That was the only thing, which is the least interesting thing about you.
Yeah. And I think there's been such a significant shift in your mindset around this as well, because I can remember 4 weeks post-show, you saying to me, do you think Dad will let me mini cut? And we were laughing about it.
Oh. I told him not to interrupt us. Take 3.
Yeah, so there has been a big shift in your mindset, definitely this post-show, because I think this post-show's been a little bit more tricky for you in terms of the things that have been going on, which I know you don't mind talking about. So post-show this time, you have had to deal with the thought that you might not be able to compete again because of health reasons, and really shifting your focus from, okay, well, being a competitor is a massive part of my identity, and I want to push hard, I want to gain muscle, and then, you know, continue with prepping. You wanted to prep next year, but I know you've made the decision again to focus more on making sure that your health is really stable. So do you want to maybe talk a little bit about what that process was in terms of why you came to that decision and what's helped you shift your mindset? Because I do think if you didn't have the mindset that you do, this year could have been extremely challenging for you. I know it's had its moments, because again, we are human. Yes, we have a strong mindset in terms of being able to reframe and think about things slightly different, but it doesn't mean it's without its challenges. So would you mind touching on that a little bit?
Yeah, so we're not always super happy all the time. There's obviously going to be life things that happen that, like, you know, you hit bumps in the road, you've got challenges. So the biggest challenge for me post-show was regaining my cycle, and it takes me a while because previous shows, previous diets, it's taken me many months, takes me like 7 to 9 months to get my cycle back. So because it takes me such a long time to get it back, it is something that I've realised I need to prioritise for longevity in the sport, because I will compete again 100%, but I need to know that I'm not compromising any of my health, so I need to make sure I've got it back for a significant length of time before I then prep again, because I've only really had a few cycles, a few periods of, you know, post-show for a few months, and then I go back into a prep, and I'll have a couple of months with a cycle, then I'll go back into a prep. So I always lose it the first month of prep, and that's because I haven't let it actually become established enough. Now, I'm not blaming competing and dieting for losing my cycle, because that hasn't caused it. The problem that I've had is because I have probably been a very, very, very small person for my whole life. I've never really realised there was an issue because I was always on the pill, so that puts a plaster on the problem. This is a reason as well that I'm very against contraception. Everybody has to make their own decisions and everybody should make informed decisions, but personally I wouldn't advise, because it does put plasters on any potential problems that you are having with your own hormones, because it stops your natural hormones. All contraception stops your natural hormones production. So because I've never realised perhaps that I wasn't having healthy cycles because I was on the pill, this has never come to fruition as an issue until 2020 when I come off my pill. But since 2020, I have competed through many seasons, so there's not really been that much opportunity for my body to regain its true cycle. It's not just because I've been dieting so hard that that's happened. I think it's because my body's recovering from a very more prolonged hypothalamic amenorrhea issue, which is the technical term for it. Although that was not caused by bodybuilding, it's just the fact that I've realised now that
fueled it more,
it's fueled it more. If I keep bodybuilding and never give my body a chance to recover, then I will run into longer term health issues. So the fact that I've got it back now, I've had it back for many months now, it's great. But if I was to prep in May next year, that would be a little bit silly, because that will probably mean that I'd probably be going through early menopause. I'm 30 now, I'd probably have issues, you know, osteoporosis issues. That's one of the main things as well. If you're not having regular cycles, that your bones get weak. I don't want to have those issues. So 100% I'll prep again, but I'm not going to rush into that.
You are only saying that now because you've managed to get your cycle back to a healthy place.
Yeah, so at the point, of course, so it took me 9 months. Took me 9 months, of course. 9 months, I think it's 8 to 9 months post show. You know, my panic had set in to think, if it's taken me this long to regain it, and I've started really learning. So I've drilled in a lot of knowledge, certificates, qualifications to really drill in, because Western doctors and gynecologists will not help you. So I've took it on my own back, and I've done my own research, done my own blood tests, run my own hormone panels, done my own like certifications, and I know exactly now kind of like why it's happened, what's happened, why it's happened, so how to prevent it happening again. And one reason that I always like to put weight on slowly post show is because, as I said before, I'm not used to being in a bigger body. I never have been. Because of the process of putting muscle on though, that's of course the goal, but it was always maybe a little bit too slow. I've realised now that putting weight on a little bit faster for health reasons is so important, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for you as well, in terms of the pushing yourself, so we learned, didn't we, about your cycle, that the stress that was going on in your body wasn't helping the situation. So you have, despite really hating it at the beginning, pulled right back in terms of your training, haven't you, in terms of not training to failure.
Yeah, it's not just the weight that was causing the issues, it was the stress and the excess cortisol that my body was producing, and that wasn't just because, well, I wasn't in a calorie deficit at all, but that just wasn't because of my body weight. That was because of the fact that I was training so hard in the gym that my body could not function with its getting its hormones back in line.
So what do you think's helped you in terms of your mindset to get you where you are now?
The main thing that helped me stop training as hard, which was so hard, and really up my
It
food,
was.
really get the food in, because even if you've put weight on and you're at healthy body weight, if you're still in a calorie deficit and not in a surplus, you could run into issues still not getting it back, or not being as healthy as you could be. So the main thing that helped me like completely just disregard any issues with my body image was just the fact that I want to compete again so badly, and I want to grow muscle, and I want to make sure that I'm not missing a beat in my off season at all. So that's like the drive of, I don't really care what people think if I put weight on. It's just my goal right now is more important than what other people think.
And your goal was very much health related. So you switched, didn't you, to, okay, well, my main focus now needs to be my health and getting my health on track. And I can remember one day you saying to me, you know, if I can't compete again, then that's fine. I've found something that I will work towards, and that was in terms of your coaching and other things that you've got going on in your life. And I think you have then changed your mindset to be, actually, I've got all of these other things. I love competing, but now knowing that you will be okay when the time comes that you make the decision to stop.
Because I accepted, after say like 7 months had gone, I'd had blood panels run, obviously, like they weren't looking good, let's put it that way. They weren't looking good.
That's an understatement.
They weren't looking good. I remember I had my bloods actually done before I competed at the end of the season. Let's just say that my female hormones were undetectable on the test. They couldn't even pick them up. But however, the point here, like, that I'm trying to make is that your kind of health is the most important part of any goal, of anything that you've got. You know, if that's not in line, like you can't do anything anyway. So I think with the, you know, fact that I've been able to put the weight on and get my cycle back, that's great now. But at the time, I had accepted that if I can't compete again, will I be okay with that? And because I'd already kind of accepted that was a possibility, I did, and I realised that I didn't just train to compete. Like, I was so happy with how I was feeling, how I was looking. The fact that I didn't have maybe optimal health at the time, I'd kind of just put that, not to the side, but I've kind of like accepted that would get better. But because I was doing all the right things to make it get better, but it made it easier just even now, just accepting that I am happy whether I am going to compete again or not. But I mean, competing, I don't do just for like the show and stuff. I just love pushing myself, the drive, the ambition of like the goal of just being on stage. I'm so excited to prep again. I can't tell you how excited I am to prep again. But the fact that I've also accepted and learnt that there is a life from when I do not compete again.
Yes.
There's a life for me there, and that's completely fine as well. So it just makes it so much easier either way that it goes.
And I think it's really important for people, if they are going through those difficult times, to really lean on their support network. I mean, I said to Kelsey, I had some little catchphrases, didn't I? If you were training too hard, to make sure that we sorted it. But you know, someone at the event yesterday was saying, you know, when you're prepping and you're losing weight, or you know, if you're dieting for a holiday or a photo shoot, and people really get on the back of that, don't they? And people message you, and I know somebody yesterday had said, when that dies down, then what do I do now, and you know, how am I supposed to feel, and all that confusion that comes with it as well. And I think having people around you who support you no matter what you're doing, and to be able to do those things with, because actually the process that you're going through should be about you, and should be about you wanting to better yourself. So actually, to do that, you then have to go through these phases of putting weight on, of finding other things that you enjoy and things you want to work towards, rather than, oh, well, this person give me credit for doing this, or will that person give me credit, because the credit should come from yourself and about how you're feeling. And I know that was why we touched definitely yesterday on those limiting beliefs around yourself and thinking, okay, well, if I'm putting on weight and I'm, you know, and I'm not competing, am I irrelevant to people? But actually, the people who are important, you're never going to be irrelevant to.
Yeah, it's all bringing it back to like who you think you
Yeah.
are, like your identity, and if that is, you feel like for me, like I'm a pro bikini athlete, but I'm not just that. I'm also many other things as well. And don't get me wrong, like I will prep again, I will compete, and I can't wait to. But I also accept that there's many other things that I also like will be able to do after I've finished competing, and that makes it so much easier. Like
Absolutely.
regardless of how I'm looking, how I'm feeling, like there is so much more to life, like from being at both ends of the scale, like in a bigger body, in a smaller body, because I've been all the way up and down that scale quite a few times now. I know how I feel when I'm smaller, I know how I feel when I'm bigger, and honestly, like it's just made me realise so much that that is the least important thing, and it's so nice to feel like that you're just happy because you are yourself and your identity that you think you've got. As I said at the beginning of the podcast, like that is not a concrete thing, and you can change that with like changing your mindset as well.
Well, for what it's worth, I'm very proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
So yes, I think that the takeaway from it is kind of having those other goals, focusing on your health, thinking about what it is that you want for your life, because at some point that isn't going to be there. The competing isn't going to be there. So
it's not forever.
what
like,
sets your soul on
we
fire?
can't compete forever. Like
No.
Yeah, you've probably got a good few years in you, and after that you are probably risking like, you know, you might have an issue. It depends. Everybody's so genetically different. What someone's body goes through on a prep is totally different to what someone else's body goes through. Unfortunately, maybe for me, my body is sensitive maybe to that process, but I've accepted that.
Yeah, and I think, again, for me, so I'm 4 weeks post-show currently, and I think one thing to say to people is it is okay for your goals to change. Now, I've always said I would get to the end of each season and decide how I was feeling as I was going through, you know, putting weight back on to decide whether I wanted to compete again. But also during that season, it is okay to change your mind on what you want to do. And the reason I'm saying that is I was due to do the Worlds, but Telford, I struggled at the finals in terms of having some sort of problem with my stomach that I wasn't clear what it was, and my health then started, I could feel it in myself, there was something not right in terms of how I was feeling, and actually thought to myself, well, I don't want to put myself through this for another 3 weeks, when actually what I feel like I need to do right now is feel a bit healthier. So that was why I made the decision, and I knew the decision was right for me. And don't get me wrong, at first my initial thought was, oh, people going to be disappointed, you know, people were supposed to be coming and things like that. And then I thought, actually no, you know, again, I am very big on reframing how I think this isn't about other people, this isn't about whether they were wanting a holiday to Amsterdam or whatever. And straight away said to my family and you guys, think I video noted you from Germany, to say, look, I've made this decision, and I made that decision very quickly, and I knew it sat right with what I wanted to do. So I then said, right, well, I'm going on holiday, I'm still going to Amsterdam, and that was a decision that was right for me. So it is okay to change your mind and be okay with that decision, and kind of stand firm in that, and switch your mindset to, this isn't about other people.
No, it's not. And I think the biggest tip I could give, because I said at the beginning as well, like we're not just going to sit here and go, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, is to communicate. That's 100%. My biggest tip, is communicate to your support circle, whoever that might be, family, friends. They are the biggest thing to get you through that post-diet phase, because you've just gone through a phase where everybody's telling you on social media, like in person, oh, you look amazing, you look great, you know, whatever kind of nice comments, but then you've got to then suddenly retract and go the opposite way. It's going to feel a bit weird.
And
but
those messages do die down, don't they?
Yeah, they do. If you've got the supporting like network around you, but unless you communicate, you can't expect something to be there that you've not like communicated with anybody.
Yeah.
So explaining to your family, to your friends, how you're feeling, to your coach, what you're thinking, what your worries are, what your struggles are. That is the biggest tip I could give you, is do not lock up and try and work out for yourself, because 2 minds better than 1, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you have, your coach, your friends, your family to literally help you through that and find out what your identity is at the time, because like we said, your goals can change, your identity can change, and the biggest thing is that you're not just set in an old school version that's out of date.
Yeah. And I think being grateful for what your body can actually achieve, and as you're putting on that weight, thinking to yourself, actually I'm grateful that my body is healing, that my strength is back, and focusing on the things that are really positive about putting on weight and getting yourself back to a healthy place, rather than that focus on, oh well, I'm up a kg, I'm up 2 kg, and however much it is that you end up putting on. So, but yeah, if anybody is struggling and wants to reach out to us, we are more than happy to talk to anybody about it, aren't we?
Yeah.
So
I think it is like the best advice to just talk to people. Just talk to people that you trust, that you like.
Yeah, we're not here to, people aren't there to judge, and people know, especially if they're within bodybuilding, know that post-show can be extremely difficult. So yeah. Well, I think we've rambled on enough today. I think this is probably about an hour.
All been about my issues.
Oh no! It will be really helpful to people who are having those similar problems. So definitely. And our next one is not going to be related to fitness at all. It's actually going to be related to managing significant life events and how you can get yourself through that and also come out the other side of it really positive. And I don't mind saying this because I know we're going to touch on it next week, but we are going to focus on I got alopecia and how I kind of reframed things for that and used it for something positive. So hopefully that will help anyone going through difficult situations.
Yeah.
So, hang on.
What was going on then?
My mum did tell us that there was a phrase, when I said to you, what is it? And you said over and out. But my mum was like, that's a wrap.
Oh no.
Thanks, Sue. I know I just said over and out, oh, that's a wrap. But actually, we did say in the first episode, we were going to set people something to do every time.
Task.
So we are going to stick with that.
Actually, would be nice to hear if anyone looked for orange cars in the last one.
Yeah, we moved on to yellow and see a yellow car.
Yeah, we did. I questioned if for some mad reason I just thought, I wonder if this is rubbish, and then I realised that it wasn't, because I'd questioned again if I was going to see a yellow car. Obviously, of course, I did see a yellow car within that drive home. But so, the activity then for today. Yeah,
I think focusing on gratitude. So starting your day with 3 things that you're grateful for. Whether that's if you are going through a phase of putting weight on and that is your goal and you're struggling with that, 3 things about your body that you are grateful for and you feel positive about, and the emotion that comes with that, feel that. Yeah.
So even if you do not write these things down, as long as you think in your head these 3 things that you're grateful for, and if you can write it down, even better, because it's lovely, isn't it, to look back and just see those things on a piece of paper, whether it be morning, whether it be evening, just at some kind of part of the day, just give yourself 1 minute and just have a think. Doesn't have to be just about your body as well, just anything that you are really grateful for.
Yeah, and if you're even braver than that, share them with us and then we can share them.
Yes, please.
Fab.
Let's do the wrap.
Oh, again, yeah, twice. Would you like to do it?
Oh. Oh, a bit heavy. That's a wrap.